Hello and welcome to Agile Q&A with Arif and TK. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's our first ever Q&A live stream, isn't it, TK?
Well, it is. You can see the bare bones overlay and us in the
Yes.
bubbles, but hopefully you're enjoying it. So what happened is, Arif, we always had a lot of questions from our viewers,
Yes.
from the community, and we
Yeah.
thought, okay, maybe it's actually best to have a Q&A show where we'll answer these questions. And also, if you have any new questions that you want to ask, feel free to put them in the chat. So we have some
Excellent idea.
questions that people have sent us before, and we have some new questions in the chat.
Brilliant.
Excited,
Looking forward
Arif?
to it. I'm very excited. Yeah, this is a really good opportunity to support the community and try and answer some burning questions, isn't it,
Indeed,
TK?
and some are quite interesting, as you will see. All right, so let's start with the very first question. How can I quickly tell if Agile will work in my industry/organization? Someone asked.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a difficult one, isn't it?
Well,
That's straight into the
I know, straight to the meat,
challenging,
right? And potatoes.
meaty questions. How can you tell? Okay, wow, right. So let's try and think about this. I think we've got to figure out firstly what type of environment you're working in. What I mean by that is are the variables in your environment constantly changing? Is there a lot of flux? Is there things that are open to change all the time? Is there things that are a lot of unknown situations, unknown challenges? I would look at things like that maybe as a guide. It doesn't mean it's a hard and fast rule, but it's a guide to say, well, look, maybe an agile approach where we flex what we're doing and meet needs constantly may provide more benefits. Another way to look at it very, very quickly is what about if we're finding that what we deliver never actually provides value? Or I say never. Constantly, we have challenges providing value through what we're delivering. There's needs not being met or people feeling frustrated. I think those are two entry points. I don't know, TK, what do you think? Are there other
I have an
things you
answer,
would
but
consider?
first of all,
Yes.
aloha to Bradley, and thanks everyone
Hello,
for joining.
Bradley.
Again, if you have any
Yes.
questions, put them in the chat because we're answering
Please
questions.
do.
And
Yes.
you have the question on the screen. Well, I thought about that, and I have a simple answer for you, which is, can your industry/organization deliver value on a monthly cadence?
Oh,
At
wow.
least,
Okay.
right? So can you actually release something to your value consumers every month and get feedback? If you're able to do that, you have a chance. If you need to wait 6 months or a year or God knows how long to actually get people to give you feedback on what you're doing and use it, you will struggle because Agile is all based on feedback and empirism. If you have a situation where you have to wait a long time to actually let people experience your results, you will struggle to apply it the way that it's intended. You might apply bits, meetings, productivity techniques, post-its and such, but the soul of agility may elude you in the industry.
That's an interesting one. I'll just challenge you a little bit on that.
Go ahead.
Do you think that your that kind of black and white or hard and fast perspective there, could it be that there are problems or challenges that are causing the value to be released, and maybe that is the issue rather than okay, we're not able to do it. That means we can't do it.
Well, it's a good point,
just to
Arif.
clarify
Right.
that.
So what I said is it's possible too, right? In your industry.
Possibility.
So if you say to me like, okay, well, can you build a submarine within a month?
No.
Especially you will struggle to, right? Let's not kid around and beat around the bush. You will really struggle. Now there are a lot of organizations that can release value within a month, but they struggle to do so based on their internal impediments. That's where agility can help.
We have a question from Praveen Kumar, who is provoking a thought here, which is
provoking.
He's wondering, does that mean waterfall doesn't have feedback from the client? What is our response?
It's interesting, right? Because theoretically, when you look at the essence of the plant-based waterfall delivery, you can have this feedback step in the middle of your waterfall. The problem, as the name suggests, is that the water doesn't flow upward. So you might even have a feedback step in the middle, or even a couple, but there's a limited amount. And there's also an inherent, dare I say, reticence in terms of changing things, because obviously the water always flows down, and it creates a culture of like, let's follow the plan and shake things as little as possible, because the job of the project manager is to limit variation. So
Interesting. Good response. Good response.
I'm a trained and certified project manager, and I've been removing variation in projects for quite a while. Sadly.
Not much more. Not much doing. You're not doing much of that lately, though.
Well, now I'm
should
introducing
clarify.
variation, right?
Yeah, you're introducing
I'm very
exactly
recovering
the
project
complete
manager.
opposite. Yeah,
I don't
recovery, yeah.
mind saying that, because I think we have one question about project managers. Let's get to that later. All right.
We'll
So
get
let's
to
talk
that,
about
yeah.
question 2. And thank you so much. And hi, Mohammed. Lovely to have you here. If you have any questions beyond the questions that we're putting on screen, let us know. And if you have additional questions or interactions, feel free. I can see quite a few of you in the audience, so that's great. All right. Second question. That's the one that I think you like, Arif, which is the difference between a product owner and a project manager.
Project manager or right? Product owner and product manager. Okay,
sorry,
this is there's lots of managers and projects and products. I mean, this has been an ongoing question in the Agile world for many years. I think I don't know. I mean. Yeah, I've dipped in and out on this one, and it's probably progressed somewhere else now. But it comes up quite often, and this is partly because I blame Scrum. So Scrum has created this role and given it a title of a product owner, and it has a very specific meaning within the context of Scrum. What's happened is, prior to Scrum, and I guess parallel to Scrum, the idea of managing a product, and when I talk about product, we can talk about physical products. We're generally talking about digital products, right? But we can talk about physical products. The idea of managing a product has been around much longer, but well before Scrum, and still is around today as well. But then when Scrum came along and said, well, no, we've got this thing called a product owner, and they need to do certain jobs and certain responsibilities within the context of Scrum, it created this whole confusion. Oh, am I product owner, or do I manage a product, right? What's the difference? So I think the simple truth of it is, if you're managing a product, and that includes many things, that includes, the I guess the product discovery process, and figuring out whether there is a need to be met with your product idea, doing all the research, and whether it's quantifiable, qualitative research around your product idea, testing, making experiments, testing them out, doing all of that good work, as well as delivering that product, and then assessing the value viability of that product as well. If you're doing all of that stuff, which is a whole suite of things, in some organizations, what happens, it's possible that they may be applying Scrum, or they may be applying some Agile ways of working, and therefore they want you to then take on that additional responsibility of being the role of a product owner within that context. That's how I would describe it. So it's kind of like a subset of a wider role. I don't think we should worry about them being, at loggerheads, or that they are against each other, or there is a conflict between them. It's nothing of that sort. That's a misconception. It's purely about, what's the context of your organization, what is your role when it comes to a product, and if you are responsible for managing a product, then it could be that you also need to do some stuff in the context of an Agile team or a Scrum team. That's the simplest response. What do you? TK, what have you seen from an organizational point of view in terms of this role challenge, if anything?
I think from my point of view, I'm approaching it a bit differently, which is associating people's identities with their roles, right? So my job title is how I feel. So I was hired to be a product manager, and now I'm this product owner. What the heck, right? So it's just important not to mess about with people, because they will feel insecure without any particular reason. One of our next questions is about that. So I agree with you, Arif, wholeheartedly. I think that's a very good explanation. And I do blame Scrum for creating silly artificial titles instead of something more. But then again, I understand why they did that, because it feels new. It feels like this is something revolutionary. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's not necessarily the most helpful thing. And
Less
by
is
the way,
more,
yes, go
isn't
ahead.
it? No. I was just thinking when you said that less is more. But yeah, go on, carry on. By the
No,
way,
I
what
was
was your?
just looking at the chat and the question from Praveen in terms of tier
Yeah.
one organizations choose waterfall over agile. It's an interesting one. It depends how we define tier one. We might be working in different markets, different industries, different geographies. In many industries, for instance, especially IT, agile is the norm now, right? If working with large corporate organizations, they work in the agile way by default. But in many other industries and in other geographies, for instance, outside of the west, maybe in the east, it's not necessarily the case. But saying that organizations choose waterfall over agile, it's like in the 1800s saying that, gentlemen prefer to ride a horse instead of a car. I'm not necessarily making the comparison that the you know horses for courses, and agile is the natural evolution of waterfall. It isn't, and there's the application for both. But one would say definitely that the waterfall, the plant-based process, has been around much longer, and as such will be entrenched. There is no going around it, so we need to know that. But there's some other
Yeah.
great questions.
I
Is
think
Agile
yeah.
as a whole correct? Not only Scrum or any other methodology. So Bradley, okay, yeah, this was probably it's probably a question overall to. I think just to answer a question from Bradley. It's agile as a whole. We try to obviously Scrum is a part of this umbrella, but for many people, especially our listeners, and we do talk to our clients a lot, and some of them are beginners in this trade. Agile equals Scrum, especially before we go and work with them. Oh, there's
Yeah.
a question by Mohammed. How?
So
Yes, go ahead, Arif.
just let's just finish that, PK, quickly
Yes.
for Bradley. I just want to reinforce the point that Scrum fits under the umbrella term of agile ways of working, or the agile values and principle. It's one of many methods that claim, I would say, or believe they follow those agile values and principles. I think that's just important to clarify that point. Yeah. And so that's how we treat it as well. But yeah,
Yes.
let's go. Mohammed's
And there's a question
question.
by Mohammed. Yes. How does
Yeah, I do like
Agile
that.
promote collaboration within software development teams? That's
Sorry,
an
here's my
exciting one. Yes.
cat. Not
Cats definitely
very.
promote collaboration.
They do,
Um,
yes.
so, Arif, yeah, how does
Carry
it?
on. No, this is a great question. It goes back to values and principles for me, which is we've got 12 principles within the original Agile manifesto, which is now a bit of a historical document. But there are some that very much talk about the idea of for example, self-organizing team, or a team having a motivating purpose, or the idea that decisions that are made within the team are probably more, I guess, appropriate, and are going to help the team achieve their goals more clearly than, or more effectively, sorry, than when decisions are made outside of the team. So there are lots of those thoughts within the Agile values, the 12 Agile values that make up that original manifesto. So I think going back to historical source, we'll see that there is plenty already when it comes to this idea of promoting collaboration. Beyond that, go on, TK, you're going to add
No, it's even
something.
more, I think, Arif. The first value
Yeah,
of agility is
yeah,
individuals and collaboration over
of
process and
course.
tool, right? So,
Tools,
so
yeah,
it's in the
that's
very
it.
first line. So I would argue that there is no way it could promote it even more, right? The
Yeah,
most
that's true.
certain pillar of agility is collaboration with individuals. And obviously, the techniques like Scrum, Kanban, XP, or other under the umbrella of agility implement that in various ways. I guess we could spend
Yeah,
hours
yeah,
talking about meetings,
100%.
boards, and other ways. I guess there's definitely a lot of that. But just one thing to remember, Mohammed, that the first tenet of agility is collaboration with individuals and not necessarily only focusing on processes and tools.
Yeah, no, that's individual interactions, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the human interaction is key. It's a core foundation. Totally right, Tiki. I was just thinking from the team perspective. The
Yes.
values do call to the team perspective quite explicitly, shall we say? But yeah, great question. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Is there
We'll
anything
get
else
one of
from
our
our
questions that have been sent, and then maybe we'll go to a
back to our
question by
chat? Yeah,
Praveen. So yeah,
yeah,
we talked about projects and project managers. What happens to all of
yes.
them? Obviously, a role of a project manager doesn't exist in most of the agile methods. So what happens to all of them after the organization or team adopts agility?
Yeah, I mean, this is a common one that comes up, doesn't it? This type
That's
of
why people
question,
asking us
and
this. Yes.
well, exactly. But it's also there are other roles. Okay, where do I sit now? What happens to me? Um, I think it can be a philosophical question in terms of, okay, where do you see yourself in this new world, and what would you like to do about it? And do you wish to enable, support, and encourage it, or do you feel threatened by it? And if so, then we need to have a conversation. And where do you fit in that new world? Maybe it's something else that you might find you want to do that enhances your passion, and you might find more enjoyment in terms of what you like doing. But I think the bare essence of it is project management as a discipline. Yes, typically doesn't feature in many of the methods, right, that claim to follow agile values and principles. Why is that? Well, simply as we were describing just a bit earlier, agility calls for decision making to be a bit more.
Agile.
Sorry,
Don't
that
worry.
that was not good. That was my cat
We are
just
live, right?
ripping.
And cats
We're
love to
live.
be on camera.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so she's just ripped the earphones out of my ears. I'm back. But what I was in the middle of the sentence was something I was right. Okay, yes. So the principles that we talked about, the agile values principles, directly talking about decision making happening within the team, right? And when you have a focal point of, as you described it, as being a recovering project manager, where decisions are made outside of the team, sometimes are given to the team. There are I say diktats, but there are things that need to be done, processes need to be followed, etc., etc., etc. That is a conflict, isn't it? So that's one thing I would
And
say.
it's interesting, right? Because people focus on these negative aspects or the aspect of command and control of project managers, where a project manager, a proper one, has plenty of great, very valuable skills. Being able to see risks, being able to plan for multiple variants, being able to react operationally, being able to do all kinds of things. And these are incredibly valuable. It's just that some of the aspects of the method itself are not really compatible with the Agile environment. So that's one thing. Number two is necessarily, again, people are tied with the role. Like if my role says project manager, and there are no projects, I feel insecure, even though I'm a great expert in all these wonderful skills that need to be there. These skills are needed in teams. These skills are needed in organizations. They're incredibly valuable. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I think we also need to, sorry, very quickly separate the person from the role. So don't it's not the person's fault who plays that role or is in that role, for however you perceive them to be. It's not they're doing a job that they feel is valuable, and you need to have a human perspective on this, right? And they may
to answer directly, what happens with the project managers? They do stay. They might not stay within these particular roles. The role name might change, but the skills are needed. I would say even more because there's so much dynamism in Agile, right? So yes, usually these skills need to be within the team. Now, for instance, a very experienced senior project manager can find their way in teaching the teams to do that and be in critical teams where his value of experience is needed and all these other skills. So that's what I usually say.
Good
We
point.
actually have a question in the chat. Go ahead, Arif.
Oh, go on. No, just very quickly. I have worked in a team where we've had a project manager as a team member, and it worked quite well only because we were working on something quite complex, and they had a lot of domain knowledge around that problem. That they effectively were like a project manager slash analyst slash problem solver. So they were able to actually pick up work and get things done and moving and help the team out. But that was a bit of a unique case. But they played a really good team role.
And we have a great question by Nitu.
Yes, go for it.
And actually, it shouldn't be a unique case, by the way. If I like what you described, that it should be more common. But
yes.
Moving on to a great question by Nitu, actually, because I think there's lots to unpack here. And Nitu, if you can just let us know in the chat if we have captured it correctly. Do you recommend rotating developers between multiple products in Agile? First of all, just to understand, the building block of agility is a team. We don't necessarily, and it's preferably a long-lived team. Now, that can be controversial in some circles, but for sake of simplicity, it's a long-lived, well-gelled team. So we try not to rotate people between teams too much. So that's one thing. However, having said that, a team can absolutely work on multiple products. In fact, that's actually quite helpful because it gives a new perspective on each product and people can use their creativity. So my answer to that is don't rotate individuals, get the teams to work on different products. This may make them what's called feature teams. So teams able to work across products to deliver business features. That's my answer. Arif, you might have something to add here.
Yeah, I was going to give a different answer. I've seen others recommend that rotation is a good thing. So
yes.
So there's a lot of variance on this. I don't know what the right and wrong is. I may actually just say to you, need to is maybe experiment with it and try and see what happens. It could be your team wish to move to something else, agree and experiment. Time box that. I don't know however long, 1 month, 2 months, whatever's appropriate. Do some evaluation before and after, baseline that, and see what the experience is for those individuals. They may feel that was it works all the way around. It may not work. If you're open and willing to experiment with that, try that, because there are competing views on it. I think I'm not disagreeing entirely with TK's perspective. That is a option, definitely.
But you said something important, Arif, here, which is focus on the individuals because it's all about them, right? Ask people, do they want to shift? They want to try something new. Maybe they don't, right? So, instead of treating people like pawns, then they need to be moved in groups or individuals. Just talk to them.
And stop saying resources. Don't say resources. That's the other thing.
Okay, no one said resources here, so you're not getting a...
Well, I know, but people like to use that word, so I just wanted to just encourage our viewers not to use that word, even if it may cross your mind.
Okay, I'm not going to address that right now. Maybe in one of the next Agile Q&As, I dive in why was the reasons why I think people say these awful things. But Mohammed has a nice question, which is a very controversial one in a lot of circles. It's about a popular agile scaling framework and when they are used. We have a separate show about that. Actually, so I'm going to give you a very quick answer. So on the 26th at 5 p.m. BST, there's the Agile 101, and it's the first rule of scaling Agile. So what's the first rule of scaling Agile? We'll be talking about scaling Agile there. It's a very deep, very controversial topic that's probably, we wouldn't be able to do it justice in the time we have left. So I encourage you to go there and see it. Trezi actually said that the project managers will actually probably suffer the change. Or do you have an answer for Mohammed, Arif?
No, I had a different answer because Bradley's asking what word would I use instead of resources.
Yes.
Well, it's To me, it's obvious, but people, staff, colleagues, fellow humans, anything that it gives a more human feel. I don't I don't feel resources are appropriate when it comes to fellow human beings. So that would be
Yeah,
my.
it's deeply
But it's a
offensive,
different.
really, because it's the same thing you would use for like inanimate objects, or diggers. It's just awful. Personally, Tracy said that the project managers will suffer change if they don't adopt agile, or if they really adopt agile. I think change can be fun if you really have the mindset. But if you want to, or if people really set their minds to suffering, they might suffer. So, Arif, is there
Hmm.
another question from the audience we would like to answer? Because we are,
Um,
yeah, quite good,
well, I
quite
was
well with
just
time.
need to had a follow up comment, I
Yes.
think, which was that it seems that they are doing some kind of rotation in the organization she's working in or he's working in, sorry. And the good part is that anyone can work on a particular product, but it does slow down development
There's a learning
a
curve,
bit
right?
maybe. So
Yeah,
that's interesting. You've said a
that's
bit.
a
I
good one.
wonder if that's a acceptable cost for long term gain. So, okay, are we happy to accept that there will be some reduction, but the long term gain is greater knowledge, staff morale, belonging to the organization, whatever those other qualities are. So it's a judgment. It's something you want to evaluate. What's important to
And
your
there's more.
organization.
Not only that,
Yeah.
people will learn the systems and they will actually remove dependencies and
What
impediments because they can
I have
actually work on
another
the other systems.
I have another quick suggestion. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
a lot of other organizations do this. And so this may be something I'll offer this, and you may want to consider it as our viewers, which is get your teams or members of your team to rotate on the support desk. Try that. I've seen that in action. Getting them to
Yeah, good
actually
point.
listen to support calls, support or take in support queries and solve them. They may not want to do that, but the biggest benefit is they are then directly talking to the people they're building the solutions for, and then realizing with the pain they're suffering as a result of what they've built. I mean, what other greater way could there be to interact and learn whether what you've done is providing value? Talk to the people who are complaining about it,
Yeah,
or
it's a good
raise the
point.
query. So try that maybe another rotational option.
So I've got the final question for today, but I think we'll
A few
have
minutes
a
left.
show the next episode really soon because I think you've been great as the audience, and I think there's plenty more questions left than you've been asking. So that's an interesting one. What's the difference between an Agile Scrum Master and an Agile Coach?
Oh my gosh, really,
Oh
TK,
yes.
with 3 minutes to go, this is like, come on, this needs a whole episode.
Well, it
Um,
does, but Arif, try to be
everyone,
succinct, right?
everyone, everyone has their own answer to this.
Hmm.
This is the problem. I don't know what's right and wrong here. But look, very simply, Scrum Master comes from Scrum. It's a very particular role, and it has its own definition within that framework. An agile coach, well, they may argue they are a role who takes on a more broader meaning and is not tied down to Scrum as a method. They're more looking at agile values and principles more broadly, helping the team adopt that and behave in that way and live those values and principles alongside possibly coaching them with a particular framework. That's the very
That's a good
simplest way.
answer, Arif. I'll give a
Yeah.
different answer that's not incompatible with yours. Some say that a Scrum Master just looks into a team or a couple, and an Agile Coach looks into the organization. I don't think it's a good answer. Some say the difference is the rate or the or how much people earn. It's also not always the great answer. My answer is this: a Scrum Master is a permanent fixture in a team or a series of teams. An agile coach
Okay.
is temporary. Their job is to
Hmm.
come in, help, and move away while having built the right knowledge, the approach within the team, having helped them. So this is the crucial difference for me. One is a permanent fixture. The other is a mercenary of sorts, coming in and help. Yes, go ahead,
But
Arif.
that's interesting. But you get a lot of agile coaches who are permanent in an organization. So
But
I
in a
wonder how
team
they.
or a series of teams, Arif, quite often they're
Yeah.
like floating around. There's a large number of teams. Some are permanent in organizations, but I would argue that if they're helping teams too much, they're not necessarily filling the role of a coach. If they're like too present for too long in the lives of teams, I believe that the job of an agile coach should be to help the team, and then just, you know, if be a mentor, be someone that they can help, but it shouldn't be that active for a long period of time. Coach teaches, SM does, is the comment of Bradley, and I think it's this is my personal thinking. Maybe not teachers, but coaches, and SM does that, but on a more hands-on, permanent basis.
That's well, we've run out of time, so we can't go into that more. Maybe we'll come back to it again. Who knows?
Session, yes.
In our next Agile Q&A, next episode of Agile Q&A,
which will probably happen quite soon. Yes.
Quite soon, yeah. Thank you. I think, firstly, everyone, for your amazing engagement, for your questions, follow-ups, comments. It's helped the conversation flow really well. So give us a thumbs up or an emoji if you enjoyed it.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. I think, TK, you enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I did. We'll
see
be on the lookout
soon
for the next one on our LinkedIn profile, or humble.associates/questions. You'll always get the current episode. And also on YouTube soon.
Well, what's any PSAs? Because we've run out of time. Are there any PSAs or none today?
Just visit our profile. You'll see plenty.
Just visit our profile. Yeah, follow us on LinkedIn. That's the only request. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye. Have a good day.